They came without warning, the black-armored sentinels of the Karzanik, cold and silent against the jagged breath of Black Rock Cavern. The stench of plasma and ozone clung to their wake as they moved in calculated silence, talon-shaped boots leaving scorched imprints on the rock floor. Their weapons hummed with restrained lethality. They thought it would be over quickly. They always did. Grim crouched in the dark, unmoving. His breath shallow, eyes scanning the shifting shadows through the cracked lens of his visor. He'd smeared the lens with ash to reduce glare. Small things kept you alive. He was tired but not slow. Hunger gnawed at his gut, but his hands were steady, one resting on the matte black rifle across his knees, the other fingering the activation switch of a pressure trigger. The tremor in the cavern floor told him they were splitting into squads. Standard sweep. Predictable. Their arrogance was their rhythm, and rhythm made them vulnerable. He waited. The lead squad entered the main corridor, motion detectors sweeping the air with invisible fingers. The Karzanik never spoke during ops. They communicated through neuropulse bursts. Efficient. Clinical. Grim knew their doctrine. He'd killed their kind before, never easily, but he had. He'd paid in blood for the learning curve. The second squad triggered his first surprise, a sonic mine buried beneath a rock pile. It didn't kill them, wasn't meant to. It ruptured their auditory organs, overwhelming their neural link temporarily. As they staggered, Grim moved. Smooth. Silent. A single shot from the shadows, armor-piercing sabot round, punched through the skull casing of the first scout. He dropped without a sound. Grim shifted position instantly. Don't linger. Don't give them a vector. Two more advanced, scanning with wide-angle bioreaders. He tossed a decoy beacon down a side tunnel. Their sensors spiked, heat signature human. They rushed in. Another mine detonated, this one shrapnel-based, embedded with anti-cloaking dust. Their visors lit up in red static. Blinded. Grim took the shot. 1. 2. The cavern echoed with the short bark of his rifle. Their bodies jerked and stilled. The others paused. He could feel it. They were recalibrating. Faster this time. Adapting. Grim ducked behind a stone column, exhaled slow. The rush was back in his veins, the clean edge of war. He didn't smile. This wasn't joy. It was purpose. A grav cannon fired from the main squad, too close. It pulverized the column behind which he'd crouched. Shards flew past his head. He rolled, dropped a mag flash pellet, and the darkness turned to searing white. The aliens shrieked, a rare thing. Not pain, disorientation. Their auditory systems weren't built for that frequency. That was the thing about the Karzanik. They were superior in every metric but chaos. Chaos humans owned. Grim ejected the spent mag, the motion practiced, mechanical. Slid in a fresh one. The heat inside the rifle barrel was rising. Would need to let it cool soon. He didn't have many mags left. But every shot would count. They regrouped. Formed a circle, defensive posture. Anticipating frontal assault. Good. Grim came from above. He'd scaled the side passage minutes earlier, laid out his plan. When they swept into the cavern's center, his trap closed. He dropped a small arc charge from the ledge. It latched onto one of the aliens and surged with kinetic force. The burst lit up the chamber. For a half-second, all their sensors went blind. That was enough. Grim fired. 1. 2. 3. One alien's spine shattered, armor splitting like brittle bone. Another fell, gasping through a ruptured breathing valve. The third staggered, raised its cannon, and caught Grim's knife to the throat. He jumped from the ledge, landed with bone-jarring force, but his aim was true. The blade pushed through alien tissue, hot black ichor spilling over his wrist. He pulled it free, didn't pause, drove his shoulder into the final trooper, slammed them both against the wall. The alien clawed at him, strength still immense. But Grim had leverage, and hate. He headed the thing, broke its visor, then shoved his pistol under its jaw and pulled the trigger. Silence followed. Only the slow drip of blood and coolant echoed now. Grim panted, leaned against the wall. His side ached. He'd taken a glancing hit from shrapnel earlier. Didn't matter. He wiped his knife clean against the alien's chest plate and stood straight. From deeper within the cavern, he heard it, mechanical thuds, heavier than the others. Reinforcements. He expected that. They would come in force now. He was running out of time, out of ammo, out of options. But not out of fight. He whispered to himself, voice raw, barely audible. Let them come. He remembered the cold of Europa more than anything. The sterile white of the corridors, the low-gravity hum beneath every footstep. Sergeant Alaric Hale, before he became grim, had been stationed there as security detail, responsible for civilian transport convoys. His world then was orderly, shift rotations, systems checks, maintenance drills. It ended with a single silent ping on the outer sensors. The Karzanak's first appearance wasn't an invasion. It was observation. A sleek, obsidian vessel drifted outside the range of Europa's planetary defense grid, unmoving. No communication, no aggression. Just a silhouette against Jupiter's red glow. Protocol dictated non-engagement. A council of Earth diplomats called for caution. That delay sealed Earth's fate. Within 48 hours, the orbital net over Earth was gone. Crushed. Not disabled, vaporized. Alaric watched live as fire rained over cities he once patrolled in VR simulations. Beijing flattened. Cape Town gone. Sao Paulo's sky turned to ash. The Karzanak didn't issue demands. They harvested. Earth's leaders sent messages. None received replies. Only silence. Then screaming. Alaric was redirected to Titan, reassigned to a fragmented unit of Earth Defense Forces. He met soldiers who had no home to return to, officers who'd lost command, and engineers drafting weapons from salvage. They weren't a military, they were survivors with guns. There, he made his first kill. Not of an alien, but a human collaborator attempting to hand over sector maps to a Karzanak drone. He didn't hesitate. Didn't speak. Just pulled the trigger and moved on. When they reached Earth again, weeks later, it was a different planet. Cities were veined with alien root structures. The sky flickered unnaturally. Most wildlife had vanished. People lived underground, if they lived at all. Above, the warlords walked freely, not even needing their full suits. The air had been altered. Purged of resistance. He formed Echo Cell, a guerrilla team made of those who didn't believe in survival. They believed in punishment. Over a 2-month period, they sabotaged 5 supply lines, rigged a plasma tunnel beneath the Mecher spire, and downed an alien control beacon with a homemade railgun. With every mission, more of his humanity peeled away. Not from trauma, but clarity. The Karzanak weren't gods. They bled. They burned. One op changed everything. Operation Hollow Sunday. The mission was simple. Extract prisoners from a subterranean alien facility beneath the Andes. Intel suggested dozens of humans held in cryosuspension. What they found were laboratories. Experiments. Mind splicing, neuromapping, language assimilation through pain. Children with mechanical implants, eyes wide open but lifeless. He found her file there. Lyra Hale. His daughter. Status. Integration in progress. No body. No cell. Only a note. Subject reassigned. Designation, Vocal Node 9. Alaric read it once. Then he set fire to every chamber in that compound, methodically, one by one. When they escaped, there were no prisoners. No enemies. Only ashes. Echo's cell was never the same. He stopped using his name after that. Names belonged to men with homes, not weapons with memories. They started calling him Grim, first as a joke, then with respect. He didn't argue. He stopped attending mission briefings. He planned alone, executed solo, returned with blood on his hands and nothing to say. Others died. He didn't. Not yet. Over the years, his legend grew among survivors. The Cave Warrior. They called him. the ghost in the dark. Some said he had a neural shield that made him invisible. Others swore he'd made a pact with the machines. The truth was simpler. He studied them longer than anyone. Knew their patterns, their blind spots, the limits of their pride. And he never hesitated. Black Rock Cavern wasn't his home. It was a tomb he chose. One last place to make a mark. He'd carved the stone walls with short vertical lines. One for every kill. They stretched far into the chamber now. Some fresh. Others so old the soot had faded. Each one a reminder. Not of revenge, but of debt. One line remained uncarved. Reserved. He leaned on his rifle during moments of stillness, fingers brushing the scar on his forearm, the one he got when shielding a boy from a drone's shockwave. The boy didn't survive. Grim did. Always did. But the faces clung to him. He didn't pray. Didn't hope. Those were luxuries. What he did was wait. For the next warlord. For the next name to erase. There was no peace waiting. Only math. Ammunition versus armor. Shadows versus scanners. Will against design. But beneath it all, one thread held everything together. He would make them regret ever thinking humanity would stay buried. The rifle jammed on the sixth shot. The barrel was too hot, and the casing ejection failed. Grim dropped behind cover, forced the bolt open with a boot press, and slid the next mag in with mechanical precision. The standard rounds weren't enough. They cracked the outer shell of the Karzanic grunts but bounced off command armor. He needed penetration, not suppression. A few more exchanges like that, and he'd be the one on the floor. He backtracked to a hidden alcove, barely wide enough to crouch in. Years ago, he'd buried a stash here, sealed in vacuum containers under loose gravel. One by one, he opened the boxes. Inside, dark matte casings. Uranium core armor-piercing rounds, illegal under every planetary treaty, irrelevant now. He loaded a mag with care. These weren't designed for humanoid combat. They were anti-vehicle, capable of boring through 4-inch alloy plating at close range. Overkill was what he needed. He adjusted the rifle's recoil compensator, tuned for lower fire rate. These rounds couldn't be wasted. No rapid fire. No suppression. Every pull of the trigger needed to kill. He stripped the stabilizer fins from the side pouch and fitted them to the underbarrel rail. Improved accuracy. Better barrel balance. He hadn't used this configuration since the orbital wreckage of Makareth Station. The results back then were decisive. Footsteps neared. He moved fast, new position, fresh angles. The aliens split again, advancing in two converging arcs. They adapted quickly to prior ambushes, but they didn't expect new firepower. The first target was a scout class, lighter armor. One shot, through the sternum, split its core in half. The force pinned the body to the cavern wall. Second target tried to raise a shield. The round punched straight through, hitting the spinal relay behind the breastplate. The shield flickered, then died. So did the alien. The third came fast, too close. Grim switched to sidearm, kept low, let the alien's claw miss by inches, then buried a shot into its side joint. Not lethal, but enough to stagger. He finished it with the rifle, center mass. The sound was different now. No echo. No ring. Just dull impact and silence. These rounds didn't scream. They crushed. With each shot, the warlords recalculated. Their movement slowed. They started using cover. They never used cover before. The Karzanic didn't know fear, but they understood variables. And right now, Grim was a variable they couldn't quantify. A commander class emerged. Broader, heavier plating, full helmet seal. It barked orders in the sharp bursts of their language. Flanking units closed in. Grim stayed calm. He didn't have time to duel. One round wouldn't drop that armor. He reached for his belt, magnetic disruptor charge, 10-second fuse. He lobbed it behind the commander, forcing it to turn. That moment of distraction was all he needed. He aimed at the neck joint, a known weak spot. The round hit. Sparks, then a rupture. The alien dropped to one knee. Second shot, straight into the visor, finished the job. The flanking units faltered, their momentum broken. Grim moved before they could adjust. His path was methodical, always angled, always exploiting the blind side. The ammo pack grew lighter. Each shot counted. Every corpse left behind was deliberate. He didn't waste a single round. After 12 kills, he stopped. Not from fatigue. The rifle was nearing thermal limit. Cooling vents hissing. He switched to passive defense, trip mines, audio lures, pressure-sensitive flechettes and blind corners. Let them walk into his design. He waited, conserving rounds. The next wave advanced slower, scanning every step. But one stepped exactly where he predicted. The detonation knocked 2 others back. He picked them off before they could rise. Only a handful remained. Their formation cracked. Some retreated into darkness. Grim let them go. The ammo wasn't for cowards. He retrieved the fallen commander's arm plate, examined it. Burn marks, full penetration, partial fusion at entry. Confirmation. The rounds worked, even on top-tier armor. He reloaded slowly. 3 mags left. Each round a statement. Each body a reply. In the silence that followed, he heard no pursuit. Only distant hums, maybe regrouping, maybe calling for backup. Grim didn't care. His edge wasn't just the ammo. It was the will to stand alone, adjust faster, hit harder. That's what they never calculated. He packed the last rounds, ran diagnostics on his rifle, and etched one more tally into the cavern wall. Not for the kill. For the change. From prey to predator. From hunted to executioner. The pressure in the cavern shifted. It wasn't footsteps this time. It was weight. Authority. Grim felt it in his spine before he saw the shimmer, plated armor wider than any corridor in the network. High Marshal V. Thursday had arrived. The last remaining warlord on Earth. Leader of the Karzanic Ground Division. Every soldier Grim had dropped led to this. V. Thursday didn't speak. His voice wasn't needed. His armor said everything. Dual-core reactor embedded in the chest. 6-layer plating. Kinetic dispersal array humming at every joint. In one hand, a vortex blade, oscillating molecules so fast the air bent around its edge. In the other, a disruptor cannon, coiled and ready. Grim didn't run. He scanned for weaknesses, none obvious. No vents. No joints. The suit was built for siege combat, not speed. That was the angle. If he could outmaneuver it, he could kill it. V.A. Thursday moved first, cannon charging. Grim dodged behind a rock shelf. The impact disintegrated half the cover, liquefied the rest. He returned fire, 2 rounds aimed at the faceplate. They bounced. Sparks flew. No penetration. He dropped low, flanked right. V.A. Thursday adjusted instantly. No lag. Every motion precise. The blade swung wide. Grim rolled under it, placed a magnetic charge on the warlord's left leg as he passed. 5 seconds until detonation. He moved again, kept low, made noise to the left, then bolted right. V.A. Thursday followed the sound, not the motion. The charge blew. The explosion staggered the warlord, disrupted balance, dropped him to one knee. First weakness shown. Grim took the shot, aimed for the exposed knee joint. Round hit metal. Partial breach. V.A. Thursday roared, first sound ever heard from him. It wasn't pain. It was rage. The disruptor cannon fired again. Missed. The wall behind Grim vanished into dust. Grim circled, watching every movement. The blade was fast, but the torso rotation lagged behind the arms. Left side exposed when the cannon was raised. He needed to get closer. He couldn't risk frontal assault again. Instead, he tossed a scatter flare, bright enough to confuse sensors. V.A. Thursday fired blind. The shot tore into the ceiling, collapsing debris between them. Grim moved through it fast. He climbed the rear wall silently, dropped onto V.A. Thursday's back. The warlord tried to shake him off, but Grim clung tight, jammed his blade under the armor seam near the upper spine, Sparks exploded. He drove the second charge in. No countdown. Manual trigger. He jumped clear, detonated midair. The force knocked VA Thursday forward, helmet smoking. Backplate partially gone. Grim didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, shoved the rifle barrel into the exposed gap, and pulled the trigger twice. The first shot cracked armor. The second burst flesh. Black blood spilled. VA Thursday staggered, swung wide, caught Grim's arm with the blade. The heat seared straight through muscle. He dropped to one knee but stayed upright. He drew his sidearm, aimed at VA Thursday's visor. The warlord looked at him, eyes exposed through fractured lens, inhuman, burning with fury and something else. Recognition. VA Thursday projected a pulse. Not speech. An image. Grim's daughter, older, altered, alive. Wires in her skin. Voice layered with synthetic resonance. A hybrid. Used. Rebuilt. Not dead. Grim froze. VA Thursday lunged. Too late. Grim dropped, slid beneath the strike, came up behind and fired again, this time into the base of the neck. The shot lodged deep. VA Thursday collapsed forward, sparks spilling like blood. Breathing shallow. Still alive. Barely. Grim stood over him, every nerve screaming from pain. VA Thursday rasped a final signal, distorted, broken. This not end. Others watching. Words warped through failing systems. Grim didn't answer. He placed the rifle muzzle to VA Thursday's skull and ended it. The silence after was different. Final. The kind that settles, not waits. He retrieved his knife, checked ammo. 2 rounds left. Enough. He looked at the body. Not as a victory. As closure. For every name erased. For the files. For Lyra. If she was still out there, he'd find her. If she wasn't, they'd pay again. He moved with a limp now. The wound along his arm had cauterized under the blade's heat, but the muscle was gone. Pain lingered with every step, but it wasn't the kind that slowed him. Around him, the cavern was quiet, alien bodies scattered in silence, weapons cooling beside the dead. He stepped over them, retrieving a comms relay from VA Thursday's shattered chest plate. It blinked erratically, trying to reconnect to its network. He hardwired it to his wrist terminal, bypassed encryption with a method he tested months ago on a fallen officer's suit. The device cracked open, revealing coordinates. Not just one location, 12. Spread across different sectors of the solar system. Forward operating sites, supply routes, war council centers. VA Thursday had been the anchor point. He uploaded the data to an old frequency, one buried under Earth's collapsed military protocol, line Echo 0. He didn't expect a reply. Most of the resistance was fragmented or buried. But as the signal stabilized, a tone echoed back, sharp and steady. Response code. Not automated. A human operator. The message came short, direct. Received. Alive. Mars Relay 2. Reinforcements in motion. He stared at the screen for a second longer than needed. Then turned it off. He collected the remaining armor-piercing rounds and dropped them into a belt pouch. The rifle stayed strapped to his back, barrel still warm. He didn't need rest. Not yet. He walked deeper into the cavern, to the chamber where his tally marks covered the stone. Dozens. Then hundreds. All carved by hand. The final one waited, clean space at the edge. He pulled a broken piece of alien plating and carved a final vertical line. Not for VA Thursday. Not even for the war. For the shift. From hunted to hunter. From survivor to catalyst. He activated the last beacon hidden in the cavern's ceiling. It emitted a coded flare, a human signal, nonverbal, designed to call others without alerting alien scanners. A message of survival. But also invitation. He didn't expect many to answer. He only needed a few. His terminal pinged again. A private link opened. Not resistance. The identifier was one he hadn't seen in years. Vocal node 9. The signal opened without video. The voice that came through was layered, part human, part mechanized, distorted by implants and language overrides. But underneath, it was her. No doubt. If you're hearing this, I made it. Changed. But not theirs. I'm leading now. Sector 8. We have ships. We're coming. He closed his eyes for a second. The weight he'd carried didn't vanish. But it shifted. Became armor. She hadn't broken. She'd evolved. Like him. He made his way out of the lower cavern, bypassing the crumbled passageways, stepping over ruin and burnt stone. The surface air stung. It always did now. He climbed to the ledge above the main ridge and planted the rifle vertically into the rock. It stood there, barrel pointed skyward. Not as a grave marker. As a signal. A message. He didn't need to stay. Others would find it. And if they didn't, he'd still be moving. The coordinates in his terminal offered targets. Not for defense. Not for hiding. Offense. Destruction. One by one, every remnant of the Karzanik left on human soil would be dismantled. This wasn't about resistance anymore. It was reclamation. He took one last look at the wasteland beyond the cavern entrance. The scars across Earth's face would never fade. But it wasn't about healing. It was about finishing the sentence. The one that began when they arrived. He would make sure it ended on human terms. He descended the opposite side of the ridge without looking back. The rifle stayed behind. The war moved forward. And so did he.